Good afternoon. My name is Judith Simonson, and I am a volunteer with Voters Not Politicians. And Voters Not Politicians is a group of volunteers that has worked very hard over the last year and a half to get Proposal 2 on the ballot that we're going to vote on November 6th this year. Proposal 2 is designed to create an independent citizens redistricting commission. This slideshow and my talk will hopefully describe that and give you a little insight into it and convince you to vote yes. Voters Not Politicians started with a Facebook post. Katie Fahey from Caledonia is a young woman who, after the election in 2016, sent out a Facebook post and said, is anybody interested in tackling gerrymandering in Michigan? And here we are, 3,000 plus volunteers. I think it's more than that. We've got about 10,000 individual donors to our effort. And we circulated last year over petitions and collected over 425,000 signatures. We had to collect, in order to get Proposal 2 on the ballot, 315,654 signatures. We collected 425,000. We did it in 4 months instead of, we had 6 months to do it, but we did it in 4 months, all volunteers. And I want to emphasize how unique that is, because when there are ballot proposals, the people who are out there collecting signatures are paid. They're almost always, if not always, paid. So our effort was really unique because we were all volunteers. And one of the opponents to our effort was quoted as saying, when 2 or more are gathered, there's somebody with a Voters Not Politicians petition there. You know, so we were everywhere and we got a lot of signatures. We are not affiliated with any political party. We're not affiliated with partisan agenda. It is a nonpartisan effort, and we welcome all volunteers. We have a lot of people from both parties, all parties. The Michigan Constitution in Article 1, Section 1 says all political power is inherent in the people. That's the basis of what we're doing. There's 2 ways to create a law or change the Constitution in Michigan. One is through your legislators. The legislators introduce a bill and they pass it. The other way is for the people to collect signatures and get a proposal on the ballot that will then be voted on by the citizens of Michigan. That's what we're doing. Our premise is voters should choose their politicians and not the other way around. And I'll demonstrate how politicians are choosing us when they redistrict rather than us choosing them. In Michigan, politicians, not voters, control the redrawing of the maps, voting maps. Gerrymandering is when politicians manipulate the election maps to pick the voters that will help them get elected and stay elected. Now, redistricting happens every 10 years. Every 10 years there's a census. There will be one in 2020. There was one in 2010. Whoever is in power in Michigan and in many states after the census gets to redraw the districts for the United States House of Representatives, the state Senate, and the state House of Representatives. There are only 2 requirements right now for drawing these districts where we vote. The first one is that they have to be of approximately equal population. So right now, that's about 715,000 people in the districts all over the country. That's basically where we end up. The Voting Rights Act requires that minority voters be protected in that that minority voters cannot be divided up and put into so many districts that they have no voice. In Michigan, those are the only 2 requirements. And after that, the party in power gets to draw the districts however it suits them to stay in power. And this is how they do it. We'll talk about Gerryland. There are 49 people in Gerryland. They are of 2 parties, green and yellow. 24 of them are green, and 25 of them are yellow. So you would expect if there are 7 representatives or 7 districts that they probably would be divided 4 and 3 because there's one more yellow than there is green. So here we can draw 4 and 3, 4 yellow and 3 green seats. If we say this is where people are going to vote to create these 7 districts, and those districts are drawn to do that. However, if you're a green politician and you want to maximize your chances, you would pack as many yellow voters in one district as you can, thereby minimizing the number of yellow voters in all the other districts. That's called packing, and that's a gerrymandering technique. If you do that, you can then create 1 yellow district in our Gerryland and 6 green districts, because you have 4 and 3, 4 and 3, 4 and 3, all over. All the other districts are 4 and 3 because so many yellow voters have been packed into one district. Cracking is the other thing that happens, and that's where all the rest of the yellow voters are spread out in all the other districts, so they're never a majority. Those are the 2 main techniques for gerrymandering. So we can end up with 6 green seats and 1 yellow seat, and we can do very similar things if you're the green politicians. There we have 1 district with green, a majority of green packed, and we have 6 yellow seats where the green voters have been cracked. So they are no longer have any majority or potential for majority in any district. In Michigan, we have the 14th Congressional District, which is over on the southeast side of the state, where I'm originally from, and it extends from northern Oakland County, Pontiac, through West Bloomfield, Southfield, down across pretty much 8 Mile Road there, and then down into southwest Detroit. Now, one might argue that the people in northern Oakland County and southwestern Detroit, Wayne County don't have a whole lot in common, but they are joined because that district is packed so heavily with Democrats that the representative who won in that district won by 80%. But there's a little piece cut out there, you see the arrow, that's Farmington Hills, or part of Farmington. When I first started doing this, I was told that that was cut out there so that the person who's actually represents the district below it can be in their district. You know, they just drew out his neighborhood. I've since been told that's not the case. It's just an opportunity to get some voters out of that district that's so heavily gerrymandered anyway and put in the lower district that'll help the person below them. And there's a picture of the 14th district. That's a picture of 9 Mile Road, which connects those 2 pieces of the district. It's just a road. There's, you know, that's how you get from one part of your district to the other. Now, in the 9th, 11th, and 14th are particularly gerrymandered. That's why we show this, so you can see how they're drawn. The 11th district swings up around above Pontiac, comes down to Troy and Birmingham. District 9 also has a little swing in it, and then of course you have District 14. District 9 and District 11 have gone Republican in the last couple of elections, but District 14, with its 80% Democratic votes, if those were spread out a little more, the difference might be apparent. So it's obviously very carefully drawn to advantage one party. Here we'll move into Grand Rapids. We have the Michigan 76 State House District, which is one of the really cleverly gerrymandered districts I think you can see. There is a street in the 76 House District. It's Woodward Lane, and in it there are 3 properties that are in 3 different state house districts. That's how specific and how detailed gerrymandering can be, especially in the smaller, in the state house, which are the smallest districts that are redrawn. Now, if those three people have an issue and they want to contact their representative, they have three different representatives to contact. So instead of having three people contacting one representative, and you have three people contacting three representatives, which obviously diminishes their impact. In Maryland, Democrats have been gerrymandering, and you can see this nice, pretty multicolored picture. Maryland is an oddly shaped state, so there's going to be some, obviously it's not Iowa with squares, but it's very heavily gerrymandered. And there's 2 points to make here. One is that both parties do this. Whichever party is in power after the census, in whichever state we're talking about, does this. So our proposal, Voters Not Politicians, Proposal 2, is geared to eliminating the partisan involvement in this. We don't really care which party is doing it. In Michigan, in 2010, it was the Republicans. It's been the Democrats. It could be the Democrats again. Here's Maryland's 3rd district. And you can see from the 83rd Congress, this is a congressional district, it was fairly compact, and you can see how it has evolved to the 113th Congress, which is basically going house to house and deciding where people should vote based on party. How it will best advantage the Democrats in this case, the party that drew the map. But this is an extreme example, but not the only extreme example of this. Okay, so what happens in Michigan is we lose our voices. So let's say you live in a district that's heavily gerrymandered, which they pretty much all are, and you want to impress your congressman about something that's a concern to you. Well, if your congressman or your state senator or your state legislator won by a huge margin and you're in the minority party, he doesn't have to listen to you or the minority party because he's won by such a huge margin. He doesn't have to listen to his own party either because he's won by such a huge margin. If you win by 60% or 70% in your district, you could lose a whole lot of votes and still win. So you don't have to listen. You can then listen to donors. You can listen to lobbyists. So our proposal is to change the process so that we choose the politicians. They don't choose us by the way they draw the maps. After the 2016 election, when Voters Not Politicians got into gear, they held 33 town halls in 33 days and collected opinions, information, had dialogues with people, asking them, what do you think would be a solution to this problem? It both educated citizens about gerrymandering and also gathered feedback. So the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission came out of this, and it is a districting process that is fit, fair, impartial, and transparent. The commission will have 13 members, 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, and 5 members who are not affiliated with either party. The proposal itself doesn't say Democrats and Republicans, it just says the 2 major parties, whoever's the major parties in the state, but of course they're Democrats and Republicans. People will self-identify because we don't register when we vote as Democrats or Republicans. So when someone applies to be on this commission, they will identify themselves as either a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, a libertarian, a Green Party member, but someone who doesn't identify as either of the 2 major parties. The people who are not eligible to be on the commission are elected officials, their immediate families, lobbyists, people who are intending to, who have run for office recently. I mean, there's a limited number of people who can't be on the commission. The intention is obviously to have citizens, independent citizens involved. All other registered voters in Michigan can apply to be on the commission. So the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, after the 2020 census, will redraw the maps. And it'll be based on criteria that is not partisan. That's the one thing they will not be doing. There will be other criteria. The process will, instead of being drawn, the maps being drawn by the party in power, the maps will be drawn by compromise, because in order for a map to be approved by the commission, there have to be 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 2 independents approve it. So therefore, all the Democrats can't gang up with all the independents or vice versa and get a map passed that would benefit one party over the other. The intention is, by requiring 2 of each group to approve the map, to require compromise. There are no public hearings, there's no oversight. If the 3 people on Woodward Lane call and say, why are we in different districts? They will not be told. It's just, that's how it is. Our process will require public hearings all over Michigan. There will be a lot of input. People can come and say why they think their community should be a certain shape, a certain size, held together. And everything that's used to draw the maps will be available for inspection and will be in the public record. So it'll be very transparent. The current process, as I explained, requires equal population, compliance with the Voting Rights Act, and nothing else other than partisan politics. Our proposed process requires equal population and the Voting Rights Act, because that's required by federal law. It will attempt to keep areas contiguous areas together without the large dramatic differences. Communities of interest will be held together. We were just talking earlier that Heritage Hill, for example, would very likely be a community of interest, because the people who live here have similar concerns, perhaps similar issues they want to deal with when they go to their legislators, either in Lansing or in Washington. And so at a hearing, if that were to be the case, the effort would be made to keep that community together. No advantage is to be given to a party, a politician, or candidate. Last time the maps were redrawn in District 5, which is very interesting for the United States House of Representatives, because it goes all along sort of the Bay and Lake Huron and goes down into Flint. It's a long, narrow district. And it actually encompassed 2 Democratic representatives. 2 Democratic representatives in the old districts lived in that district. One of them was Gary Peters. The purpose of that is to ensure that there will be 1 fewer Democrat elected, because 2 Democrats can't get elected from 1 district. So even if it's a heavily gerrymandered district in favor of Democrats, one of them's going to lose. Gary Peters lost. He ran for Senate statewide, and he won, and he's been our senator. It will also respect city, township, and county boundaries, and it will try to keep districts compact. So you're not looking at Oakland County, Pontiac, and Southwest Detroit in the same district. So we're asking people to vote yes on Proposal 2 on November 6th to create this Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. I just want to make one other point. You may hear opponents to this saying this is some sort of a power grab by the Democrats. They're trying to grab power and take it away and benefit themselves. In 2016, Michigan voters voted 47.3% Democratic and 47.5% Republican. So basically split down the middle. In 2012, it actually was more heavily Democratic. It was 54.2% Democratic and 44.7% Republican. But of our 14 representatives that were elected after the 2020 redistricting, 9 are Republicans and 5 are Democrats. So despite the almost equal voting of the citizens of Michigan, they have 64% of our representatives are Republican and 35% are Democrats. There are 110 state representatives. They break down 63 Republican and 47 Democrats. Again, equal votes, but if I'm correct here, if my math is correct, it's 57% Republican and 39% Democrat. The 38 state senators divide 27 Republican and 11 Democrats. Again, a large swing toward the Republican side because they drew the maps. If I can give you Rhode Island, I can give you Maryland, it's the reverse because the Democrats drew the maps. That is not representative of our voting population. And it's, so when somebody says it's just an effort by the other party to sway the balance their way, I guess I point out, well, it's already happening their way. Our goal is to make it more fair and more equal. We would ask you to vote yes on proposal 2. You will see this language on your ballot, and it may be on the back, depending on your ballot, because the proposals sometimes are on the back of the ballot. A proposed constitutional amendment to establish a commission of citizens with exclusive authority to adopt district boundaries for the Michigan Senate, Michigan House of Representatives, and U.S. Congress every 10 years. The proposal will create a commission of 13 registered voters randomly selected by the Secretary of State. It'll prohibit partisan office holders and candidates, employees, certain relatives, and lobbyists from serving. It'll establish new redistricting criteria that we discussed, contiguous and communities of interest, and it will require an appropriation of funds for the commission operation and commissioner compensation. You can sign up to volunteer with Voters Not Politicians. We're canvassing, going door to door, talking to people about this. There will be phone banking, and you can donate. We have no problem with collecting money because we obviously need it, and we need to reach millions of Michiganders, so there's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram opportunities to follow us. And we would ask you to pledge to vote yes on proposal 2. We do have some pledge cards in the back if anybody wants to sign one. And you can stay in touch versus text. And we will keep you posted on what's going on with Voters Not Politicians in proposal 2. Thank you very much. I'm willing to take any questions. And I believe, Megan, did you want to talk about the mathematics involved in this?
I can if there's questions.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
So when you look at I see the ad to this on TV and it shows it gridded out like this perfect grid, but city lines and county lines aren't like that in the state, correct? So you're going to have, regardless of how it's broken up, it's not going to be this beautiful
That's absolutely.
Mile by mile grid.
No, you're absolutely right. That's absolutely correct. And it has to do with the demographics, where people live. So we're not going to, you can't divide Michigan, it's not a square.
Right.
And if you look at the 14 congressional districts, the United States House of Representatives, the whole Upper Peninsula and half of, not half, but probably a third of the Lower Peninsula is in District 1 because of, that's not very many people live there. And that's how you have to do it. What we're looking at, though, is criteria that will not just be partisan, so that while you're right, the district boundaries are not perfectly square, the maps will honor those boundaries. And that's what we're really looking for. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, sure.
I'm curious, I think there's other states that are also doing independent commissions. Do you know anything about that?
Well, California, there's about 13 states of the 50 that have some form of this type of solution to the gerrymandering problem. California passed a proposal, and our proposal, as I understand it, is based, or at least grew from their proposal. I know that Ohio just passed a proposal to create a bipartisan commission as opposed to an independent, nonpartisan commission. And it was in a special election, maybe with some other issues earlier this year, and it passed by about 70%. So we're moving in that direction. States are moving in that direction. I think our effort is getting a lot of publicity. And Katie was on 1A this morning on NPR. And so once we're successful, I think we're going to see it in other states. Anybody else? Okay, thank you.